paper. I'm doing this political analysis on the Meade County candidates, and just a political civic analysis. I don't know any of these folks, or I don't know any of these people, or any of the folks that are running. So, you know, I don't hate them or I don't love them. And in fact, it gives me a non-biased, objective perspective in which to kind of talk about just the civics, okay? Just the civics. And the civics is, you know, this the gal or the Meade County newspaper went ahead and they've went ahead and made this long list of, you know, all the county candidates in Meade County that are running. Now, they've only picked the local candidates. They haven't picked any other candidates out yet. So take these statewide examples, okay? So this is the last thing I want to talk about. The other issue that I talked about is how there's a lot of unopposed positions. Even the constable, I think the 3rd or 4th or 5th district, there is nobody running for it. So there's not even enough citizens in order to fulfill all the positions that Meade County is offering. If you just wrote your name in for the constable's position, the District 3. If you wrote your name in Constable District 3, you would become the constable. Now, anybody who wants to be a constable, you have all the arrest powers that a sheriff has, but in order to become a constable, you got to put up so much money, and then they hold that money as collateral to say that, you know, just for insurance type of reasons. So there is a little bit more that goes involved with being a constable, but essentially once you get elected, I like the constable position. I like the idea of the constables because we have, you know, when you have a police force and you just elect the police chief, then you don't know anybody else who's there. With the constables, we're not just electing the police chief, but we're electing all of the people, okay? So we're not just electing the police chief, but we're, you know, electing all the constables, so all the people that's going to have the arrest powers, the jailers, the sheriff, the constables. These are the ones that have the ability to put their hands on you and to arrest you. Now, the judge executive is the executive authority, so they control all the police and what, you know, all the day-to-day affairs falls on the head of the executive branch, which would be Jerry Lynn. So Jerry Lynn is the face of Meade County, and we have, you know, some faces that's running against it. So that's just a general analysis before I get into this specific one. So, you know, they went ahead and they put the judge executive, they got the sheriff, the coroner's race, they've got the Brandenburg, Muldrow, and Ekron school board races, constable races. So they have a lot of elected positions, right? The surveyor and the property valuation administrator, coroner. They have a lot of local positions, and there are people that's filling them, so not all the positions are being held without it, so that's not totally a bad thing. But what I want to point out with this thing is that while we're pointing out the local county candidates, we're not picking out the candidates that represent this district, okay? So the Meade County papers point out, you know, the judge and the coroner and all the rest of them, but they're not pointing out the state representatives and they're not pointing out the judges, okay? And these are bigger races. These have more of an impact for all of Kentucky, and, you know, the judges races, that's going to be the day-to-day judicial system, right? So the competitive races, right, and that's another thing. When it comes to the voters, when it's just one person running, it doesn't matter if you vote or not. They're going to win, okay? So the only times that the citizens even come into play are the competitive races. And the competitive races in Meade County, you have Mark H. Flinner versus Kelly Thompson. And they're running for the Court of Appeals, to be a justice for the Court of Appeals, which would be, we got the Kentucky Supreme Court, then you got the Court of Appeals, and then the Circuit Court, and then the District Court, right? So the Court of Appeals would be above all the judges. So all the judges would be, you know, has to answer to the Court of Appeals. And there's 14 members that's on the Court of Appeals, and it's an 8-year-long position. So they'll be a millionaire by the time they're finished with that term. So it's $1 million position, and it's a lot of power, and this is a race that needs more attention, and the media needs to pay attention to it, and the citizens need to weigh into it. Who is Mark H. Flinner? Who is Kelly Thompson? I don't know who these folks are, and that's a problem, right? When they're running for judges, they're nonpartisan, so a lot of times they want to remain objective by not saying what they actually believe. But if you don't tell me what you actually believe, I have no idea what you're basing any of your, you know, decisions on. Are you going to actually be a judge that looks at this person and looks at this person and comes up with a, you know, hopefully a mutual sort of, you know, a win-win situation, try to make it, you know, sort of iron it out? Or are they going to be like, well, you know, I don't like you, and so you go to jail and that's it? We don't need that. We're paying you $1 million. You need to look at these cases and pay attention to them. So that's a very important case. The Court of Appeals or campaign. It's a very important campaign. The Court of Appeals, the justice for the Court of Appeals, the race between Mark H. Flinner and Kelly Thompson is way, I don't want to say it's more important, but it's a substantially more important than a lot of some of these local races. And we're not, you know, the paper didn't really mention anything. It might be something tucked in the middle of this, but in the whole, you know, they have a list of candidates and they only named the local county candidates, but that's not the only candidates that Meade County could vote for. Meade County is going to have to choose between Mark H. Flinner and Kelly Thompson. Do you like Kelly Thompson? Do you like Mark H. Flinner? Who do you like more? Why do you like these people? Why do you want them to be, you know, your judge? And it's for this district, right? So they're going to represent, they're the Court of Appeals for this district. The other race, there's two other races actually. There's the U.S. House of Representative race, right, which is an important thing. There's, you know, we only send a few representatives to American, to the American system of government, and here we're going to send somebody else there. So who are we going to send there? We're going to send Jeff Greer, the Democrat, or Rochelle Fraser, the Republican. So is Jeff Greer going to get in, or is Rochelle Fraser? That's the 27th district. No, I messed up. My bad. But that is a race, okay? That's a competitive race. That's the 26th District of Kentucky House of Representatives. You got two House of Representatives race, one for Kentucky and one for the United States. The United States House of Representative is Ron Leach, is the Democrat, versus Brett Guthrie, who's the Republican. He's the incumbent, that's Brett Guthrie. And then Ron Leach is the Democrat challenging Brett Guthrie for this national position. So why don't we know about these? You know, why isn't the media actually telling us about it and putting it as a list of people to vote for? And who are we going to send to the American system of government? We only got 435 representatives, and we get one of those. And one of those can either be Ron Leach or S. Brett Guthrie. Same thing with the Kentucky House of Representatives. We got 100 representatives in the House and then 28 senators. So 1 out of 100 is going to be chosen out of our district. Meade County, I think, is part of a greater district with two other counties. And Hardin County, Meade County, and another one south, okay? So that's in Kentucky, you got Jeff Greer, the Democrat, versus Rochelle Fraser, the Republican. So which one of those do you want to represent the Meade County area in Frankfort? So we have a lot of bigger decisions to make than just, like, you know, the local politics. The local politics seems like it'll get a lot more attention. It'll be more cutthroat, and people will be like, oh, you're not going to be the dog catcher. He's going to be the dog catcher. How come you're going to be the dog catcher? And while they're arguing about these dog catcher positions, you got a lot of these bigger positions that aren't even being discussed. They're not even being reported. It's not even being talked about. So that's the last part of the election analysis. I'm glad that they printed any of them, really. It's all public information, so you can get online to the Kentucky.gov, but if nobody's actually organizing all this stuff, and there's so many political races out here, if nobody's organizing this stuff, then, you know, we're not going to have an actual robust conversation, and that's what we need for a democracy. Have a robust conversation with, you know, lots of ideas, and whoever has the best ideas are the ones who win. So again, I'm going to say them again. So the Court of Appeals, the 2nd District Court of Appeals Justice campaign is between Mark H. Flinner and Kelly Thompson. 27th District of Kentucky, the House of Representatives, the race is between Jeff Greer, the Democrat, Rochelle Fraser, the Republican. Okay, so Jeff Greer versus Rochelle Fraser for the representative of Kentucky in Frankfort. And then you got Ron Leach, Democrat, versus Brett Guthrie, the Republican, for the House of Representatives in Washington, D.C. It's the 2nd District, for the U.S. House of Representatives. Okay, that's pretty much it. I mean, that's the general analysis of the thing. We have all throughout Kentucky, every position is up, all the coroners, all the judge executive, all the sheriffs, and the local positions matter. They're very important, but so are the national and state-wide elections too. So we got to pay attention to them, especially since they have more power, more influence, and more money. Okay, the judges, not just the Court of Appeals, but even circuit court judges, make $1 million. They get in there and they have an 8-year term, and they get $1 million by the time the 8 years is over. So there's even circuit court judges are being made into millionaires. And Kentucky is like one of the most corrupt states in the entire union. And why do we have, you know, people talk about taxes and saving taxes? Well, there's so much corruption, we're actually losing a lot of money because of just the corruption, right? When you have a lot of spoil system, when you have people giving out friends and jobs and shit, you know, that costs the taxpayer money. It's good for their friends, but it's not good for the people. So, the last thing I want to talk about, the sheriff's race. I don't know either one of these individuals. I did a quick Google search, and that's another thing. How come they don't have any of the information about where they stand on the different issues out there? Maybe, you know, I just didn't search long enough. But it should be much more accessible, and it should be easily out there. Maybe we can actually just call the folks, and if that's true, then that's another thing. As Americans, we're allowed to call these representatives, you know, yell at them and tell them what we feel and how if they don't, if they're not doing good, then we can, you know, change their opinions. The phone number actually for Stan Heslip is 270-828-3880. And it's bkheslip@hotmail.com. And this is all on his Facebook page, Stan Heslip for Meade County Mayor, or Meade County Sheriff, my bad. And so Stan Heslip, he seems like a nice older man. He's been in the position for a long time. Okay, so I'm just going to read what he wrote about himself. And this is more information than I've got about most of these candidates anywhere. So, you know, this gives me something. And since I feel like I know Stan Heslip even more because of this biography, I feel more inclined to vote for someone like him. But let me just explain who Stan Heslip is in his own language, and then I'm going to call this quits. Okay, so he says, I'm Stan Heslip. I want to be your next sheriff. I got 40 years of experience. It gives me insight to build Meade County a sheriff's department for the future. We need to bring young personnel into the department. All department personnel will be from Meade County. So that's good. You know, he's a Meade Countyan. He's from Ekron. Lives on 65 Payne Road. He was born April 2nd, 1947. So he's a baby boomer, right after World War II he was born. Personal information, I'm an Eagle Scout, worked for the FBI right out of high school as a photographic clerk at the National Laboratory in Washington, D.C. I moved back to Kentucky, married my wife of 43 years, Brenda K. Now, on November 5th, 1966. I started working with the Kentucky State Police as a dispatcher, was drafted and served in the U.S. Army 67 to 69 with a combat tour in Vietnam with the 218th MP Company. Upon returning to the United States, I entered the Kentucky State Police Academy in Frankfort for 16 weeks of intensive police training. I served as a trooper and boating officer until the fall of 1978 when I went to work for a Meade County Sheriff's Department. I worked for 3 sheriffs over 28 years as a deputy and chief deputy. So Stan Heslip, he's been in Meade County for a long time. He's been the inside man for Meade County for a long time. He knows how to do the job, okay? That's clear. That's clear. He knows how to do the job. And he also probably knows a lot of information and a lot of things that have happened in Meade County because he was right there in the middle of it all for, you know, for such a long time. And so, okay, going on. I've worked undercover operations, disaster response details, local, state, and national levels. I was on duty in Brandenburg immediately after the April 3rd tornado impact. Worked 4 hurricanes in Florida. In 2004, I was on station on the Mississippi Gulf Coast when Hurricane Katrina made landfall in the FAA licensed rotary wing helicopter and fixed wing airplane pilot. I spent 8 years with the 4th Cav BDE at Fort Knox, providing intensive combat training to our Reserve and National Guard soldiers to prepare them for combat operations in Iraq and Afghanistan. No one else running for sheriff has the extensive experience I've had. I need your vote on May 20th. Personal interest, Brenda and I purchased her family's farm on Buck Grove in 1974. We enjoy raising cattle, and hay here is a real fun joy to be able to raise our girls on the same farm where Brenda was raised, and now our grandchildren are growing up here on the same farm too. I enjoy old tractors. I'm a member of the Lincoln Trail Antique Power of the past, and I have 3 old John Deeres, a 420, 720 diesel, and an 830. You can't have a John and not have an Alice Elise. You cannot have a John and not have an Alice Elise. I don't know. So I have a 175 and a 200 Alice Chalmers. Brenda and I also have a 1958 Studebaker and 1941 Chevy pickup, all original, and are in the process of becoming the proud owners of a 1931 Model A sedan. We also enjoy riding motorcycles. Just recently took a 9-day trip to Mount Rushmore, Sturgis, South Dakota. It was an awesome ride. I have to mention the ride to the Wigwam Village at Cave City last fall. Also, we enjoyed a great time with friends. Both these rides, the biggest joys, our 4 grandchildren. It's true, if we had known how much fun and enjoyment they are, we would have just started out with them. Ha ha ha. So yeah, there's a nice slap with his kids right at the very end there. Overall, he sounds like a really good guy, right? Stan Heslip, he's very cultured. He's been all across the world. He's been helping people, right, with the Hurricane Katrina and all these different disasters. Sounds like a remarkable man. He's got a long you know, a rap sheet of experience with FBI, with you know, with Vietnam, being, you know, Army. So he's been in military sort of operations, right? He's in rescue sort of operations. He's been a deputy for the last 20, 30 years. So he knows the stuff. He knows the experiences. And now that he's a human to me, I like the man. You know, I don't know. Maybe it's a character flaw, but he seems like, you know, I like the way he writes. He seems well educated, and I believe he's a Democrat too. So these are all good things.